It had finally happened. I hit 2 million subscribers. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was Monday, March 18th, and I had finished eating breakfast just in time for this event. I was obviously ecstatic. I wondered to myself how I would ever get through the school day with something so monumental nagging at the back of my mind. How would I ever focus in chem or calculus? But these questions did not live for long before something else dawned on me. Something much more dire. Now, I presume that you're literate and clicked on this video because you read the title, so you know what happens in the end. However, in that moment, I was asking myself, what on God's green earth am I going to do to celebrate this milestone? Do I bite the bullet and bake cookies into oblivion? It's certainly what the masses wanted, and you know what I say, you ask, I answer. So, ladies and gents, I present to you this mess of a video. Now, I think it's worth asking, should I be making this video? Obviously not. Is this a good use of my time? Also no. But guess what? After a good 2 seconds of pondering the pros and cons, I'd made up my mind that I would in fact do this video. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you 2 million cookies for my 2 million subscribers.
What's up, my dudes? So today begins the madness of baking. If you can recall from last time, this video was not so much of a fun experience. So I went all out in the hopes of having a better time. I just got back from the dollar store with my mother because we had to pick up 2 things. One, I got 2 of these baking sheets. Making this video with just 1 baking sheet would just be criminal and so painful. And 2, I got 4 of these plastic containers to store the unholy amount of cookies that I'm about to make. I also purchased, get this, 3 standalone mixers off of Amazon because my greatest downfall last time came from the fact that I had to hand mix everything and it took ages. So this was my solution. Now, they're not those fancy KitchenAid standalone mixers because those are really expensive and I'm not about to spend like $3,000 on one video. So I had to do with these. They're $50 each. You heard that right. Do they work? Only time will tell on that one. And do they smell kind of off? Yeah, but what was I expecting for $50?
And with that, I baked and baked and baked. Now these next clips originally had audio to them, but here's what happened. I thought I would be cute and use 2 microphones from now on because I have 2 million subs, and I would just keep going and going until I had a small colony of microphones. But for some reason, they stopped working and now I'm left with a series of soundless clips. Don't worry, you didn't miss much, so I'll just narrate what the hell is happening. The recipe in question called for 1 1/3 cups of all-purpose flour. After that, half a teaspoon of salt. But wait! It was at this moment that I made my first mistake. I was not supposed to use the standalone mixer for the dry ingredients. Nay, I was supposed to use a regular glass bowl and hand mix it. So I transferred everything and got back to baking. Time for the baking soda, half a teaspoon of it. Whisk everything together and set it to the side. Now's the exciting part. We get to use the weapons. In the mixer's bowl, put 1 whole stick of butter and then melt it. Once you have the bowl of fat, put in half a cup of sugar, 1 whole egg. I got too excited with the egg and rendered the first one useless, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Then the madness begins. Use your mixer to mix everything together as violently as possible. I have to admit, the addition of 3 standalone mixers to my team had its advantages and disadvantages as predicted. Yes, they saved a lot of time and muscle power, but they also happened to be the worst standalone mixers I had ever bought. For starters, the mixer itself is just a handheld mixer that is held over a bowl. Great design, geniuses. And second of all, the mixer's teeth don't even reach the center of the bowl. They just stay to one side like nervous Nellies and don't mix anything. So I have to manually push the batter to that side. But nevertheless, I went through the recipe thrice and produced a butt ton of batter before I sat down to craft my cookies. Now this is by far the worst part of this whole process. It's meticulous, it's tedious, it's mind-numbing. I despise it. But the cookies were not going to make themselves, so I had to manually make them. Similar to the other cookie videos I've made, I'm making nipple cookies. The only bad part about this whole situation is that it's double the work. After you handcraft each one, you have to go back and put a singular chocolate chip on each one. Like I said before, it's prisoner's work. I was quickly going through my supplies. I was making progress, lots of it. Some things worth mentioning. It was very hard to not eat the raw batter, but then I remembered all those medical horror stories on TLC about E. coli and how it throws a mini Coachella in your body if you eat raw eggs, so I stopped. Number 2, my mom came down at around 7 p.m. to start making dinner. She was making pasta with tomato sauce. Yes, tomato sauce. I could not believe I had to share kitchen
kitchen space with such a demonic fruit. And number 3, I was keeping track of all the cookies I had made by recording them on my whiteboard. Each time I went through the recipe, I was able to make about 1 to 2 trays of approximately 160 cookies each. They were very tiny though. It was like making tiny chocolate chip cookie cereal. Actually, that's not the worst thing I've ever heard. Oreos needs to get on that. It was 7 p.m. when the poop really hit the fan. As you can probably guess, I was getting fatigued. I definitely do not have cooking endurance, and it was coming out in this activity. We still had what felt like a metric ton of batter to go through, so my parents stepped in to help for the millionth time. First, my mother. We were becoming fluent in the art of cookie making. We were pumping out those turds with the vigor and zest of Gordon Ramram. My dad saw the war we were waging and decided to step in. Our battle plan? Me, the wounded warrior, shaping and molding those little cookies with my bare hands while my parents assigned 1 chocolate chip for every cookie. This was when the engines really started turning. My dad got fancy. He started using 2 hands to make the cookies while using the cabinet in front of him for head support. My mother, she was just along for the ride, which was still great. It was nearly 10 p.m. when we finished for the day. We cleaned up my mess and got ready for the next day, which was sure to bring more trials and tribulations our way. Now, the next morning, I woke up with the memories of yesterday still fresh in my head. It was still the school week, so I wouldn't be able to continue my cookie endeavors anytime soon. But that didn't stop me from thinking about the mad fun I was having. The battle I was engaged in the kitchen was transcending boundaries. It was too exciting. After I got out of school, we had some errands to run. We were running low on supplies, so my mom and I hit the local grocery store to stock up.
Hello, my dudes. So we're raiding the grocery store for supplies because we ran out of a couple things. My mom and I were working together here. We need butter and eggs.
And butter and eggs did we find. I also took this opportunity to grab some extra sugar and flour. Soon enough, we were back in our car and are on our way to another evening of cooking.
And so day 2 begins. Today, our goal is to finish the bin I was filling up yesterday and then fill up another one and hopefully half of another one yet. So today's gonna be a fat day. You know, a lot's gonna happen, a lot's gonna go down, and I just hope that you're picking it up. I've literally been eating cookies this entire day. It's not a good situation, but it's also my best decision yet, so I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Anyways, let's begin. Yummy.
And cookies did I bake. The goal today? Speed. I was plowing through the batter and spewing out cookies with a speed that has not yet been seen on this planet. I was no rookie. I was a professional, and I did not come to play. On a side note, I forgot to mention this yesterday, but I spilled the vanilla extract all over the recipe. Hey, Joanna, last video called, and they want you to spill the vanilla yet again. Anyways, I charged forward. The cookies weren't going to make themselves. I would also like to thank all the people who alerted me to the toxicity of aluminum foil after my last video. Turns out, if you use aluminum foil instead of wax paper to bake, you will turn into the Tin Man's evil cousin, the Aluminum Man.
Update. So I've been baking for about 30 minutes now, and I'm happy to report that I've burnt my first batch. Look at this. We have 3 boobs just stuck together. I've also been eating way too many cookies. I'm on the keto cookie diet, in case you didn't know that. So 60 to 70% of my calories comes from cookies, and the rest comes from avocado toast.
I kept on going. Bins were filling up, cookies were being baked. I got a bit explorative and decided to try to half the total amount of butter. Why? Oh, because there was butter everywhere. On my hands, on my tripod, on my camera, on my phone, you name it, it was on it.
I had also devised a really dope playlist to get me through the baking process.
I would like to share it with you now. I mean, who knows? If there's anyone out there making 2 million cookies, maybe this could help you too. First off, Love My Way by the Psychedelic Furs. This song is incredible. It gives me xylophone vibes, but in a very good way. I can imagine that this is what Tame Impala would sound like in the 1980s. Next up, we have the devil herself, Madonna, with Hung Up. Actually, the amount of people who legitimately think Madonna is Satan is alarming. Okay, I need to stop talking before I stir the pot of controversy. This song, all I can say is, it's great. It's beyond amazing. I feel like walking into the bank to deposit $1. It's that good. Next one's a classic. September by Earth, Wind & Fire. If the world was ending, I would listen to this song as everything descended into absolute chaos around me. And if you disagree with me, go set yourself on fire, you pyromaniac. Even the mixers were dancing. It doesn't get much better than that. Now we're getting a little bit more modern. We have Talk Fast by 5 Seconds of Summer. Now, I was never a very big fan of their earlier work, but their latest album slaps and it goes,
so hard. This song is no exception. Moving right along, now we have what I believe is Billie Eilish's best song, When I Was Older. It's so hauntingly beautiful and incredible, and you have to listen to it. And mind you, I'm kind of over my Billie Eilish phase, so this is unexpected, even for me. We're taking it even farther back to the 70s now with Rasputin! Not going to lie, this song is funky and weird in all the wrong places, but man is it groovy! You also feel like a badass when you listen to this song, so there's that added benefit. And finally, we have Him for the Weekend by Coldplay. Fun fact, Beyonce makes an unexpected appearance in this song, and it's the most beautiful thing ever. I hate how people kind of forgot about Coldplay. Like, they're only there for Viva La Vida, and once their castles built on pillars of salt and sand collapsed, they were gone. Guess what? St. Peter definitely won't call your name if you do that again. Anyways, it was around 6:15 p.m. when my PG-13 rave ended, and I was still motivated.
This is what greets you at the gates of hell. So this is the madness that's going on right now, and I apologize for my screaming, but that's the only way I think you guys can hear me. We're about 13 batches in, and we're going strong. We've made a butt ton of cookies already, but we still have all these to fill, so you know what? I'm keeping my head up. We still have a long way to go.
Flash forward about 45 minutes. I had made the executive decision to make a bunch of batter first and then go on to making the cookies. I made 13 times worth of the recipe. There was so much batter it was honestly offensive, but nevertheless, I began the painstaking process of crafting each cookie. At the beginning, it wasn't that bad. I was flying through the task at hand and having fun. I could tell a visible growth in the number of cookies I had. They were growing, expanding like some sort of disease. Suddenly, everyone would become infected and their brains would just be one giant cookie. But that's besides the point. We even had our own dance party. We're very graceful specimens. I don't know what else to tell you. But it didn't take long before the reality of the situation hit me like a ton of bricks. I had been baking cookies for nearly 2 hours, and I had barely made a dent in the amount of batter I had, so obviously I was panicking. So in came my parents to save the day. My dad and I started first because my mother... Okay, so here's what happened. Earlier, she got excited when she saw that I was baking cookies and decided to steal a couple of them. What ensued was the greatest sugar rush in Mother Goose history. She was air guitaring to Fleetwood Mac like there was no tomorrow, and it was beyond hilarious. So, unfortunately, my dad and I had to pick up the slack and bake those darn cookies ourselves. Not gonna lie, we were really effective at doing this. I would mold the cookies and he would place the chocolate chips. We were making large dents in the amount of batter we had. It was impressive and inspiring to say the least. The first batch went into the oven, then the second, the 4th, 7th, 19th, the nth number W, the yellow one, the one with dots. We lost count and we didn't want to count because all that mattered was the dwindling batter and the growing bins of biscuits. My dad took a break and my mother stepped in to help. We were so pumped that we even belted out Bohemian Rhapsody in a beautiful performance.
Pulled my trigger, now he's dead. Now I'm gonna throw you all away. Mama! Ooh! Galileo! Galileo!
It was nearly 12 a.m. when we finished baking. It was way past my bedtime. I was still electric from this exciting night of baking, but I remembered that I had school the next day, so I decided to call it a day and go to bed.
Now, this is where the story gets slightly tricky. Any normal human being would have stopped this madness right now after yesterday night's moments of chaos. But am I a normal human being? No. There were still 3 sticks of butter just chilling in the fridge, and I felt this sudden urge to use them to make one last batch of cookies. So, after school that day, my mom brought me some more eggs, and I got to baking. On this day, my parents were busy, so I would not be getting any extra help. It was all up to me. I baked 2 recipes worth of the batter and got to making the cookies. At this point, I was just eager for this video to be over, but there was still some indeterminable, infallible, and indefinable urge to use up all my resources, i.e. the butter. So I had to keep going. I sleepwalked my way through 6 trays worth of cookies, and finally I was down to my last stick of butter. The light at the end of the tunnel was coming into sight. It was the final stretch, the last hurrah. This is where it all started falling apart. For some stupid reason, the batter was completely dry, so when I was putting the chocolate chips on the cookie, they were breaking apart and cracking. It was disastrous, so I had to improvise. I baked the cookies the way they were, chocolate chipless. This is where it gets nasty, so you have been warned. I then just threw some chocolate chips on the tray and let their heat melt the chocolate so that it covered the cookies. Let me just say it was a bloodbath. It was the worst thing I think I've ever done. But it didn't end there. There was still enough batter left to make 2 more trays worth of cookies. So I split it up into 2 portions. The first half, I added some extra butter so that it wouldn't be dry. I also added the chips because I was tired of meticulously placing 1 chip on each cookie. I thought this was gonna work. I thought this was gonna be genius. Well, it wasn't. Because what ended up happening was that once I microwaved the batter to melt the butter, it also ended up melting the chips. Now it just looked like straight up poop. With the other half, I mixed in the chips but did not microwave it so that I wouldn't end up with the same mess. It ended up working. Another 30 minutes passed and I had crafted all my cookies. It was finished. Now all that was left was to bake them, and after 6 minutes of baking, they were finished. I was finally done with this activity. What the hell do we do now? No one knows. And what can you do with this video? I also have no idea. On a more serious note, however, I owe you all a big fat thank you. Thank you so much for 2 million subs. I was ecstatic when I hit 1 million, so 2 million seems unreal to me now. The fact that I can do this and have a platform is mind-boggling for me, and I am eternally indebted to all of you for this opportunity. So once again, thank you. I have one last piece of information to share with you all. I was extremely curious about what effect this whole cookie extravaganza had on my health, so I asked my dad to measure my blood sugar levels. You might be wondering, Joanna, why on earth do you have a blood glucose meter if neither you nor anyone in your family is diabetic? Well, my dad decided to buy one to manage his diet, and I thought I would try it out to see exactly what effect it had on my body. Now, to measure this, you have to prick yourself. I hate needles, so this was extremely hard for me. My heart goes out to anyone who has to do this on a daily basis.
No! No! Ah! Oh my God!
Anyways, after 30 minutes of struggling, I finally pricked my finger, and the results? A whopping 7.9! For context, my average or fasting blood sugar level is 4.5, so it nearly doubled! Anyways, I thought that was a fun little piece of information to share with you all, so that's it. That's the end of the video. I love you, and I'll see you all in the next one.